This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. We're in Gateshead. We just concluded the Robbie Davies Jr. Lewis Ritson press conference. With me, Eddie Hearn. Eddie, first and foremost, welcome back to the greatest city in the world.
Yes, well, it's good to be here, and as always, I felt like we might have missed our chance when Lewis lost to Patera. But he's come back, he's battled his way back, and you guys are crazy because you've gone from 7,000, 7,500 to 9,000 sellout for this one. Careful with that one, you're smashing it in my chest. And I can't wait. Great fight, great card, great atmosphere. It's going to be electric.
Talk to me about that response, because everybody up here today, whether it be Fitzgerald, whether it be Ritson himself, was saying, yeah, we've done good tickets, we could have done even more if it was possible. Unbelievable response to this.
Yeah, and the great thing is not just a lot of Geordies coming, but 800 from Preston, 1,000 from Liverpool, 300 from Bermondsey. So, fight fans, and I feel like doing so many shows in America like we're doing, the difference is how well educated the fight fans are here. They know not just the main event and the chief support, but the entire fight card. And they'll be coming early to enjoy themselves, have a great time. They respect the matchups, and that's why it's sold out so well.
Just want to start with the main event, talking about it stylistically. The common comparison seems to be boxer v puncher, Robbie Davies the boxer, Lewis Ritson the puncher. That said, would it be foolish to sleep on Robbie's power and to sleep on the boxing ability of Lewis as well? I know him and Neil have been doing a lot of work in that regard.
It would do, and actually I said in a few interviews that I think the two main fights, all four guys have got to do something differently to what people are talking about. So people are saying about Lewis Ritson, he's got the power, he's got to walk him down, he's got to do this. Robbie Davies, he's got to box off the back foot, he's got to counter punch him. No, they've got to do that, but they've also got to box the other way. Robbie Davies is going to have to stand in the pocket and trade with Lewis Ritson at times. He's going to try and have to hurt him to the body. And by the way, Lewis Ritson's going to have to try and box as well, and not just walk into shots and get counter punched. Same in the Fitz against Cheeseman fight. People talk about Ted Cheeseman's endurance and his work rate. That's not going to be enough against Fitzgerald. He's going to have to show something else. And great matchups. And the main event, I think right now, it couldn't fit better with the huge show next week with Progress against Taylor. This is a WBA World Title Eliminator. They'll be looking at the winner of next week, and the winner of this fight is going to really change the direction of their career.
Now, the atmosphere we expect on Saturday night will be what you could describe as emotional. There's lots of Scousers coming down, it'll be full of Geordies as well. Spoke to Lewis earlier in the week about the importance of discipline, retaining a game plan. That said, with that atmosphere, do you think there's a good chance game plans just go out the window Saturday night?
I think he's matured as a fighter. When you receive a loss like that, I remember being in the change room after the Patera fight. It was quite a lonely place. Like, everyone sort of cleared out, and I remembered the change room after the Highland fight, and it was buzzing. So he's been through that. He would have had that feeling of, maybe people don't support me as much anymore, but they have, and this is his second bite of the cherry. And I feel like Robbie Davies Jr. is almost like Zen-like in the build-up to this fight. You see by his social media stuff, very mentally focused. In fact, if I was Lewis, I'd probably be trying to get into him a little bit at these pressers and the weigh-in, because I want to unsettle him, because he seemed very calm today, and I think he would have left this presser, great noise, but a lot of respect, going back to the hotel, going, job done there, 2 days to go. So, there was a lot of respect all round, because I think both guys want to conserve their energy.
Cheeseman Fitzgerald, British title, been touted as one of the best domestic fights of the year. Stylistically, is there any way we can get anything other than an absolute barnstormer?
I don't want to curse it, because I once said that Martin Murray against Gabe Rosado would be one of the great wars of all time, and it wasn't. But this will be one of the great wars of all time. I think you look at Fitzgerald's got great power. Fitzgerald's got great boxing ability. Both very good amateurs. Fitz won a gold in the Commonwealth Games. Cheeseman won many ABAs. I just feel that Cheeseman has great championship experience. And I think that when this fight was made, I think Fitz was the favourite. But I think Cheeseman, you can't rule out his work rate, his ability. And I think, he can box, but he's got to show that. I think if he boxes how he did against Kieran Conway, he will lose this fight. But I think if he can box how he did against Darren Byfield, he might win this fight.
Do you think it makes Ted a more dangerous fighter given the pressure? I know he's put on himself this week. I know he thought he won the Conway fight, but he had the Garcia defeat as well. He's put the pressure on himself to say, this is my time, I need to do this to push on from domestic level. Yeah,
well, he needs to do this to, what you just said, push on from domestic level. We know that he's a very good domestic light middleweight. I believe he's got more ability than that, but he's got to show it in fights like this. And these are the kind of fights that can change your career. If you get a massive win at domestic level, all of a sudden it can completely change the path. So he needs to win badly, so does Fitz. This is a difference between being a domestic fighter and moving on to bigger things.
Seems like we're always talking about what's next. With the main event, we know it's now a WBA final eliminator for the winner of eliminator, not final rather, my apologies, ahead of next week's clash between Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis. Not unrealistic to say that we could see them guys, any of those four in together going into next year. Huge incentive for those guys Saturday night.
100%, especially if Josh Taylor wins. Because Josh Taylor against Lewis Ritson or Robbie Davis Jr. is a great first defence for him as a unified world champion. So a lot to play for.
Now, one thing I wanted to touch on, Eddie, obviously horrible news that broke last night. Patrick Day passed away, sadly, after the injuries he sustained in Chicago last weekend. I think it's fair to say nobody that steps into the boxing ring shouldn't be able to go and see their family afterwards. Huge loss for the boxing world, but more importantly, a huge loss for his loved ones as well. Yeah,
I mean, nothing makes the news better. And the saying goes that boxing saves many more lives than it takes, and that's true. But it doesn't make it any easier. I met this kid for 30 seconds of my life. And last night I was in pieces because I remember the conversation, and I remember the positivity that he had. I remember the smile that he had. I remember how happy he was. He loved the sport of boxing. He was absolutely 100% living his dream. He didn't need to box. He came from a very good family. He was well educated, but he loved to box. It was what he loved to do. But again, even that doesn't really give you the comfort. There's nothing really that can explain the sport of boxing. It's very difficult in this instance to justify it. But we know that, it is a great sport, and we know that we're having a bad spell at the moment. The medical situation for fighters is improving. It is evolving. But we've had a terrible 4 months where we've lost 4 fighters. And again, it's brutal for everybody. Again, I knew him for 30 seconds. Think of his family. Think of his trainer and manager and friend Joe Higgins, Lou DiBella, who it was his fight. He had 2 fighters in that fight. Think of Charles Conwell. And when you read the responses of people who talk about Patrick Day, it shows you what a great man he was and how much positivity he bred into people's lives. So we have to do 2 things. Number 1 is we keep having to evolve and protect fighters and not take them for granted as fans and as people who work in the business. And number 2, we have to make sure that the name of Patrick Day lives on. Everything that he believed in, everything that he loved about the sport, we need to keep that flame burning. And, it's devastating news. And, of course, our thoughts are with his family and friends.
I know it'll seem insignificant based on what we just spoke on, but on that bill in Chicago, Alexander Usyk, heavyweight debut, beat Chaz Witherspoon. In many ways, a classic Usyk performance. Took a couple of rounds to get settled in, just went through the gears and was quite simply too good. What do you make of his performance?
Yeah, I thought it was good. He wanted rounds, and I thought Chaz Witherspoon was good as well. Came in at late notice, big heavyweight, over 17 stone, technically good. Still some questions, will Usyk have the power to KO the big heavyweights? Can he sustain the power? Got hit a few times, and he's giving away 30 odd pounds or 35 pounds, so it's not going to be easy. We know that Usyk is a world-class fighter, pound for pound great, and you're going to see him in some huge heavyweight fights in 2020.
In keeping with the heavyweight theme, Martin McCauley out at Newcastle this Saturday. Bit of a nightmare. I believe his opponent got cut with just a few days to go. Yeah. In comes the Kingpin. No surprises what to expect Saturday night.
People were pleased. Kevin Johnson's a great lad, great personality, and he'll probably try and fiddle his way through 8 rounds and give Martin some rounds. Martin will be trying to get him out of there. Not many have done. I think AJ was the fastest of recent times, and obviously you saw him go 10 rounds with Dubois and big punches. So good to get some rounds in, and always an interesting interview for you with the Kingpin.
Now, we saw Bivol out last weekend as well. I think it's tomorrow we have Gvozdyk Beterbiev. Any qualms of putting him in with the winner?
No, he has to. He has to have that kind of fight. Maybe the winner of Canelo against Kovalev, or the winner of Beterbiev against Gvozdyk. That's the kind of fight that Bivol needs now.
We heard the response when he got out of the ring. He was very comfortable in there last week, but maybe he didn't quite push on, maybe because he didn't need to necessarily. Do you think he needs that big fight for us to see the best of him in a way?
Yeah, we do, but also because he was a Russian fighting in front of 8,000 Ukrainians. So they were booing him from start to finish. Technically excellent. Sometimes a little bit of that style from his coach where you don't have to take too many chances. When you've got a fighter coming at him, I have to say the Beterbiev fight is a brilliant fight. So great fights to be made, and listen, Joshua-Ruiz is on the heels of these guys as well.
We know you've been flying through the purse bids recently. You didn't need it. Josh Kelly's going to be challenging for the European title against Avanesyan. Talk to me about that fight. When can we expect it?
Trying to lock up the date. Not easy because we don't have many dates this year. But both up for the fight. Both agreed to the fight. It's a great fight. I want it to headline because I think it's Josh Kelly's breakout fight. But what a run Avanesyan's on. He's going to be full of confidence. And Kelly Avanesyan is going to be a brilliant upcoming fight on Sky Sports.
Do you think this is almost a better sell now than what it was when it was first meant to take place, given the recent form of both?
Yeah, you've got the bad blood, you got the this happened, that happened, and you've got the run of Avanesyan, who now you have to believe in as a world-class welterweight. And I believe Josh Kelly has the skills and is a world-class welterweight as well, and I think it's a brilliant matchup.
Final thing I wanted to touch on before I let you go, Eddie, there's a lot of people waiting here to speak to you. One thing a lot of people have been asking us about this week is the visa situation ahead of the Joshua-Ruiz rematch in Saudi Arabia. At the initial press conference, it sounded like that you'd be issued a visa alongside purchase of a ticket. Now it seems that they're separate entities and you will have to pay out to get that visa separately. Could you just clarify that?
I'm not involved in the ticketing. I don't run the visas for Saudi, but I do know that when you get a ticket, you qualify for a visa. They have put a charge on that visa. The process is quite straightforward. I think there's about 6,000 fans booked up already for on the British side. So it's really a case of us communicating to the people who are in charge of the visas and the tickets and make sure that fans are aware of the situation. So huge support so far, and we thank everybody for coming, and we look forward to a big fight in Saudi.
Eddie, final word to you. What do we see Saturday night? Newcastle, packed arena, chaos?
Yeah, you see an amazing atmosphere, a great fight card, and hopefully we get 2 instant all-British classics.
Eddie, thank you very much for speaking to Boxing Social.